Joe Gransden is described as a young man with an old soul and a classic voice, who's a great new talent and plays the hell out of a trumpet. He's a jazz musician and a vocalist who hosts jam sessions every Monday night at Napoleon's Grill and has released recordings including Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, most recently, The Art of the Song, and Go Getta. He's also been featured on the cover of Golf Georgia magazine and maintains an active performance schedule with configurations that range from himself as a part of a duo and his 17-piece big band. He was recently the closing act at the 2025 Atlanta Jazz Festival. Join us for my conversation from the edge of the earth with Joe Gransden. You've taken on a lot in your career as a vocalist and as a trumpeter and as a live performer and a recording artist, but it's hard for me to imagine that this is the first thing that you thought you would be doing. What did you want to do with your life before you decided to become a musician?
I wanted to be a hockey player.
No way.
I wanted to be a professional hockey player. I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
I was born just north of Manhattan.
Okay.
In kind of Yonkers, New York. But very early, I think I was 6 years old, 7 years old, we moved to Buffalo. My father was transferred to Buffalo. And Buffalo is the greatest city in the world to me, right? Okay. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's a Buffalo Bills fan. Everybody's a Buffalo Sabres fan. And it's kind of a small town, but has a lot of people. There's still a Jewish neighborhood, Polish neighborhood, Italian neighborhood. You know, there's still foods from all different cultures and specific neighborhoods. So it was a great place to grow up. And if you're a young person in Buffalo, you probably ice skate and you probably play hockey.
Okay.
And I fell in love with hockey like most of my friends did. As a young boy, I fell in love with hockey, and I played hockey on all the teams that I could. I tried out for all the better teams. Some I didn't make, some I did make, but I was a decent player. Certainly not a professional on that level. Like I wasn't like trending towards being a professional hockey player, but that's what I wanted to do. I loved playing hockey.
Okay.
And I did like music. I had to pick an instrument in fourth grade so that I could be in the band. I mean, my parents were very not strict, but they were very sure that we were all going to be in the band, me and my two sisters. We were going to pick an instrument and at least try it for a couple of years. I chose trumpet because of my grandfather, who's a wonderful trumpet player. He was a wonderful trumpet player, and just, hearing him practice all the time and hearing him play all his scales and all his slurs, I always liked the sound of the trumpet. And, when it came time, it was a pretty easy decision. Trumpet, I'm going to play trumpet. But I still loved hockey, and there was conflicts quite regularly. There was band concerts on the same night as a hockey game, for instance, or rehearsals that would conflict with hockey practice.
So which one won out?
Well, hockey was much more often. Hockey was 2 or 3 days a week. Band might have been once or twice a week, and then a concert once a semester.
Okay.
But what turned the tables for me was, and I don't know exactly when it was, but I'm gonna guess it was 8th grade. Maybe 7th grade, we had a guest artist coming to our school, a trumpet player named Alan Vizzuti, who's a classical jazz trumpet soloist on the highest level that you can be. He's as good as anybody that's ever played the instrument. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I was a kid, and my band director was very into music education and having professionals come in and speak to us and play for us. So he had this guy, Alan Vizzuti, coming in to perform with our little middle school wind ensemble. And it happened to fall on the same night as a very important hockey game. And my parents said, flat out, you're doing this band concert. They're counting on you. I think I played first trumpet or whatever.
Wow.
And you play hockey games all the time. And yes, they need you too, but you got one band concert a semester, and you play the trumpet. This guy, Alan Vizzuti, plays the trumpet. You're going. And I complained quite a bit. I did not want to go. I wanted to go play in this hockey game. And I remember going to the rehearsal the day of the concert. Alan Vizzuti came in and performed with us in a rehearsal atmosphere a couple hours before the concert itself. But it was after school. And I specifically remember my mother bringing me to that rehearsal. And we went into the rehearsal, and I was still complaining that I wasn't going to be in this hockey game. And even though I had heard my grandfather play the trumpet, and he was fantastic, I had never heard the trumpet played on the level of a guy like Al Vizzuti.
Yeah.
And as soon as he started playing, within a minute or two, I turned to my mother, who was sitting, the parents were sitting behind us, and I said, that's what I'm doing the rest of my life.
Wow.
And it was instant. It was just like, it was kind of frightening. I went home, and from that day on, it was all day long trumpet, practicing trumpet, trying everything I could to play those notes like he played, those high notes, those fast notes, those technically perfect notes, that beautiful, gorgeous sound. Yeah. This is, now I'm 54 years old, and I still am a tiny percentage of what that guy can do on the instrument. I mean, it's incredible how good he is, but it's a good bar to have to try to get that good on this instrument. But he's up there with Wynton Marsalis and Doc Severinsen.
Is he still alive?
Oh yeah, he's probably, if I had to guess, I'd say he's 71 or 2, and he tours all over the world, mostly doing educational things, performing with colleges, performing with high schools, performing with professional orchestras. But one of the greatest that ever lived, once in a lifetime, kind of like the Tiger Woods of trumpet, you know.
Has he ever had a chance to hear you play?
I think so. I mean, I've met him a handful of times,
Yeah.
and one time I took a lesson with him years ago. But every time I hang out with him, which is maybe 4, 5 times in my life, I'm starstruck, and I remember that feeling I had as a kid hearing him play. And I always say to him, you know, Al, you're the reason I do this for a living. And he always says, I'm so sorry. I mean, he's joking, but he, you know, he's inspired a lot of musicians, and it just hit me the right way. It hit me so hard. I practiced all day long. And I practiced so much that I developed bad habits.
Such as?
Such as playing the trumpet and having the mouthpiece too low on my lip. I tried everything I could do to play the high notes, to keep up with the practicing schedule I had, and the band schedule, and all that took its toll on my chops, and I started trying to find ways to cheat.
Oh, okay.
And one way to cheat is to kind of press into the red part of your lip,
Right.
and you force your lip to vibrate. You squeeze it almost, and you can squeak out these silly little high notes. But when you're in middle school and high school, any high notes, you must be good, right? So, but I developed some bad habits, and I had, when I was 20, I had to start over basically, and I had to spend hours and hours playing the quietest long tones and taking lessons from some of the great classical musicians and relearning how to develop. It's like changing your golf swing. It's impossible. The slightest little thing affects what happens. So that was kind of the drawback of falling in love with it so hard. But just to wrap it up, I'll tell you that it was probably a year later. My father, who's a musician, saw how much I loved trumpet now and was very excited. And my grandfather, everybody was very excited, man. I mean, how old are you in 7th grade? I don't even know.
12.
12. At 12 years old, I know what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And there was no turning back. My father knew I liked jazz too, and it was always on in the house, whether it was Miles Davis or Frank Sinatra or Nat King Cole, any one of the greats. It was just always on loop, you know. The radio, the jazz station in Buffalo. And he came home one day, and when I got home from school, he had left an album on my dresser, actual vinyl record. This is 1980s. And it was Chet Baker, and it was a record called Diane. And that's just Chet and piano, and it's mostly ballads. And he had put a little Post-it note on it. Joe, check this out. I heard a cut on the radio today. And I put that on, and almost the same thing happened that happened when I heard Alan Vizzuti play. I was like, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And I remember sitting in my room with my trumpet trying to sound like Chet Baker, trying to pick out those pretty notes that he played. I knew nothing about what key he was in, what chord structures were, harmony, nothing. I just closed my eyes, and I couldn't really do it, but every once in a while I'd get one note that was the same note he played, and I'd get that breathy attack that he had, and that's kind of when jazz became my direction. So I went from kind of the trumpet soloist guy that I wanted to be. Now, man, it was like, I want to be a jazz musician. Right? So that's kind of the history of kind of how I found myself here.
What do you think you have learned from your father as a fellow musician?
Just from a musical perspective, patience. I learned a lot of patience from my dad with regards to practicing and taking my time and not rushing. There was times as a kid that I would try to get these scales, and I would play them so fast, and they would be not clean. But I wouldn't, and he'd yell from downstairs, "Slow down, turn the metronome down." I'd have to turn that thing down, and I didn't want to start slow. I wanted to be as good as Alan Vizzuti, as Chet Baker right away. So I learned a lot of patience from him. I also learned he's really good. He's a very, very good jazz piano player and a wonderful singer. He doesn't sing much anymore, but I learned I loved the trumpet, but I learned through him the love of music. That it's not all about trumpet. You can enjoy a tenor saxophone solo too. You can enjoy a bass solo. Well, let's not get carried away. Just kidding. Just kidding. The love of melody and the love of how it works with harmony and just the lifestyle of being a musician. Not the drinking or not any of that stuff, but just how you find something you love and you get to be creative doing it. I mean, my father chose. I think he easily could have been as popular as a Harry Connick Jr. or he's very handsome, my dad, and he sings.
I know.
Yeah, you've
I've
met him.
seen your dad. Yeah.
And he plays great, and he was very young when he and my mom started having us, and he chose the responsible. I'm getting a job, and I'm going to take care of this family.
Yeah.
Thank God he did that because we grew up wonderfully well, and so I think he lived a little bit through me, seeing me progress on some level in my career. But he could have easily been one of the top on the planet.
Now, seeing your dad make a decision between being a professional musician and being a musician who's enthusiastic about it, but who also has a day job, as they say, did that impact what you have chosen to do with your life in terms of professional musician versus side hustle?
Yeah. Like I said, I wanted to be great when I heard great players around me, so that was already in me. But there was many times where I thought about how am I going to make a living?
Yeah.
I remember one time, kind of a family friend, but we called them cousins. He came to stay with us because he was going to Life College. I had already moved down to Atlanta at this point, and he was going to Life College to be a chiropractor. And he was telling me all about the chiropractic and how you could make so much money. And here I was playing like these little gigs for $45 and I played a spaghetti. And I was like, man, am I going to be doing these same gigs when I'm 25, 35, 45? This is scary. And I went with him to school one day, and I said, I'm gonna go to chiropractic school. I'm gonna be a chiropractor. So that night at dinner, I told my family, my father, my sisters, my mother, and I'll never forget my father just slammed his hands down on the table, just boom. He was so mad. And I was thinking he'd be like, yeah, man, that's a responsible thing to do. He was like, and then after he calmed down, he explained, that's the dumbest thing he's ever heard me say. Like you love music so much. It's your passion. And you're gonna go for the money, right? Well, of course, I know more than my dad, I think, right? So I did like go to like the, I don't know, like I never actually made it into Life College, but I went to like the I don't know, the day where you kind of decide if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they gave us all a book, and they were like, all right, tomorrow, read pages 1 through like 200. I was like, shit. I can't read one page and remember what it said. And I was like, all right, Dad, you're right. I'm back to making $45 in spaghetti. But yeah, I mean, just seeing and hearing him talk about music with me on a regular basis, I could tell that he loved it. And watching him perform, I could tell that he loved it. And when we were growing up in Buffalo and in New York and all that, he was playing gigs, but he did have a regular, steady job. And sometimes he would have to travel for that job. And I think that I saw, and I kind of heard without him actually saying it, that do what you love. You don't have to think about having some steady job, Joe. You don't have a wife and a couple kids already, or 3 kids at that point. So I think he subtly made me feel comfortable choosing a career that was kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Music is just not. It's just. I mean, I remember one of my first girlfriends. When she asked me what I wanted to do for a living, and I said, be a professional trumpet player. I remember she said, "And what are you going to do for money?" I remember that specifically. I was like, that's a good question.
Yeah. You could have said many things, including well, what are you going to do?
Right. I remember that, man. That was funny. I never called her back.
That's okay. She blocked your number anyway.
Yeah, she sure did.
Oh, man. A lot of parents would have wanted to make sure that you had that steady other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge compliment to your father in helping you through his actions to see how important choosing life is and what turns you on.
Mom too. My mother, was my whole family's in music on some level. Mm-hmm. Some of them were professionals and made a living at it. Others are just talented and just never chose that profession.
Yeah.
Mom was a great choreographer, and her uncles and her aunts, her mom's brothers and sisters were all in the business in one way or another. So my mother was always pushing me in the right direction. She's the one that got me to start singing. Mm-hmm. She's the one that helped me to become an entertainer because I wanted to be Miles Davis. I mean, I wanted my back to the audience.
Oh, back to the audience. Yeah.
I wasn't gonna.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
About you.
Oh my God! When I first started singing and all that, I was so nervous because I just wanted to just leave me alone. Let me make some music with my piano player and my bass player. Mm-hmm. And the first few concerts that I did where I actually sang a little bit, I remember my mother would be in the front row and she'd be looking at me and she'd be going, "Smile."
Wow.
Or she'd be telling me, "Go walk over there, sing to those people. Now walk over there."
Oh my goodness.
And then I'd get home and be mad at her. Leave me alone when I'm up there. I know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
Can you dance?
Not really, no. I had to dance one time at the White House for the National Tree Lighting.
Okay.
Me and John Driscoll Hopkins,
okay,
wonderful friend of mine, just a brilliant human being, great guy. He was asked to perform for the tree lighting on TV, and he invited me to join him because we had just done a Christmas record together.
Okay.
So we only had time to do one song, and we were going to perform with, I think, the Army Blues Band or some super world-class jazz big band outside at the White House.
In D.C. in the winter
It was
time.
20 below zero. and the president was there and all these people and TV cameras. But we had time to practice leading up to it. We had about a month. And John said, "I got an idea. There's that big break in the song. Mm-hmm. And what are we going to do? We can't just stand there." He says, "I'm going to hire a choreographer to give us some dance moves." And I was like, "No." And he did. And it was only about 16 measures or maybe 24 measures. But we had something, and we worked on this thing, man, over and over and over again. And when it came time to perform this, that was what I was least nervous about. The dancing was cool. The trumpet playing in 20 degrees below. Yeah. The singing in front of the whole, TV cameras and all that kind of scared me at that point. But once we got to dancing, I'm like, this is the easy part. But other than that, no, I don't really dance. I probably should move around a little more on stage, but what are you going to do?
You, speaking of making a living, you just finished two, I would say, relatively huge gigs. One being your sold-out show at the Roswell Art Center. Yeah. And the other one is closing the 2025 Atlanta Jazz Festival. Yeah. So how do you get all these people to come and watch you?
I don't know. I think both of those performances were with my 17-piece big band. Yeah. And as you know, my band could be 2, 3, 4 people, 8 people, or my full orchestra. Sometimes when it's the full orchestra, it does draw a bigger crowd. It's a little bit unique. There's very few full orchestras anymore. I have a guy named Wes Funderburk in the band that writes a lot of the arrangements. So even though we're doing the Great American Songbook and maybe some originals, but mostly standards, these are fresh new takes on these songs that Wes, I kind of guide him through what I think I want, but he's the professional when it comes to writing these arrangements. So when people come to hear us play, they're not hearing the stock Tommy Dorsey, Count Basie arrangements. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are but they're hearing that same style of music with this full big band. I think that has a little bit to do with it. I also think that I've put in a lot of time and a lot of hours and a lot of sacrifice seeing my wife and my family over the years, playing 340 gigs pretty regularly, at least up to through COVID, 330 to 45 gigs a year, every single day, sometimes 2 a day, to build a foundation locally, but really in the Southeast, so that I could sustain the lifestyle here that I want. I knew early on, when I first started singing and put my little trio together, and I saw the direction that this was going, that hey man, I can make a living doing this. I can play a private party, I can play a concert, I can play a corporate event, I could do these steady gigs 2 or 3 or 4 nights, 5 nights, 6 nights a week at these restaurants. I can make a living. I'm in love with this girl, Charissa, who I wanted to marry at the time. Yes, I want a family at some point. A lot of my friends at that age were going on the road, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, seeing the world, man. It was so attractive to me to do that. But I was like, man, I gotta build something here so that when I'm a little older, I know that I can be there for my son and I can be home as much as possible. And so when I travel now, it's 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Would I go out for 2 months? Now, yeah, if the money was right, sure, I'd go out. My son's 15. He's cool. But I would only go out if it was me. I wouldn't go out as a sideman with somebody else's band necessarily, for financial reasons probably, but also for I like to be in front of a crowd. I like to be the guy, right, on stage. And if it was me, I'd bring my son, I'd bring my wife. They'd fly out and meet me here or there. But I wanted to develop something locally and within the Southeast that could sustain. And that's why I put all that time in so long to get to that point, to where I don't necessarily have to travel that much.
And that answers a question I've always had about you, is why didn't you decide to return to New York or to go to LA or go to, other places? Why here? It sounds like it's allowed you to have a life.
Yeah, I mean, I was in New York and I was very happy in New York, and my girl Charissa at the time was very willing to move to New York and we could get married and start a life there. And I flew here to visit her and my family on a Monday night, and I got in at 11 p.m. and the next morning was 9/11.
Wow.
So I was, I think I got in at 11, 10 o'clock at night. Charissa and I went out to dinner, went to bed super late, got up the next morning, and like everybody else in the world, here we are watching this on TV.
Yeah.
I couldn't get home to my apartment in Brooklyn for however long they shut the airports down.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2 weeks, I don't remember. And when I finally went back, at least at that point in time, New York had changed a little bit. Tourism people weren't going out as much. It was just a very weird time, and I had an offer by Pano from Buckhead Life to play at his private club 5 or 6 nights a week. He said, well, just come back to Atlanta until things chill out in New York. So I did. I flew back here. I stayed with my parents, and I worked 5 or 6 nights a week at the Lobster Bar in Buckhead,
goodness.
which was a great gig, man. Wayne Adams on bass, Bruce McIntosh was on piano, I think. And that led into 6 months, led into a year, led into people hiring me for private events. And before I knew it, I was like, this is silly. Why give this up now? I'm no longer 22. Maybe I'm 32. I want nice things. I want to be able to live the life I want. New York City was where I really learned to play. I could have done fine there. I could be a sideman there, working and making a living, and who knows where that would have taken me. I don't know, but I chose to be close to mom and dad and my sister and get married here and settle. Yeah. And I love it, man. I have no regrets.
Excellent. The Speakeasy Show is brought to you by The Velvet Note. At The Velvet Note, you'll always enjoy the feel of the intimate, private concert and up-close and personal conversation you've dreamed of having since you first discovered the artist's talent. We're open 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with comfort and ambiance abound. Join us for a show or even just a jam session. You can find us at thevelvetnote.com or at 855-5-VELVET.